So here's a story about two guys, both 27, same city, same job basically, making around $58,000 a year, give or take. March 2009, both of them opened their first investment account, $5,000 each, same week pretty much. They'd even read the same article, one of those invest in your 20s pieces everyone shares. And they both feel the exact same thing in that moment. Terror, honestly. Because the market's down 57%, something like that. Brutal number. Unemployment's climbing toward 10%. Every headline's screaming crisis. At some point, it basically becomes wallpaper. You stop even reading it. Guy 1, let's call him Guy A, looks at all this and goes, "Nope, this is insane," cashes everything out. He'll wait it out, get back in once things calm down. Makes sense on paper. Guy 2, Guy B, he's scared too. Who isn't? But he just keeps putting in $500 a month. And when things get worse, he actually doubles down, which sounds crazy, honestly. Fast forward to 2020. Guy A's got maybe $18,000 left. Guy B's sitting on over $210,000. Same starting line, 11 years later, they're in completely different universes. And the only thing that separated them was what they did in like a 3-month window. That's it. Nothing else. There's also apparently a roommate in this story with some unexplained medieval sword collection. No idea why that's relevant. It isn't. Moving on. So I'm talking about those moments where it genuinely feels like the world's ending. And that feeling, annoyingly, comes back way more often than you'd think. And most of us, if we're honest, are wired to do exactly what Guy A did. Me included sometimes. I spent the last few weeks, while my friends were out doing, normal things, building spreadsheets off 2009 and 2020 stock data. Yeah, my social life's not great right now. But if you feel like you're doing the right things with your money and still not getting anywhere, this video might actually be the most useful financial context you get for a while. Not an opinion, to be clear. Just math. Okay, so let's back up. What actually happened? Because if you've lived through something like this, you know that weird feeling. You're panicking, but you're not even sure exactly what about. Think back to March 2020 for a second. Whole world shutting down, economies just stopping. S&P 500 bottoms out. March 23rd at 2,237. That's about a 34% collapse in roughly a month. The VIX, the so-called fear gauge, spikes to some of its highest readings ever recorded. And financial press at the time is seriously asking, like seriously, whether markets would even fully recover from this. Millions of regular investors sold. Moved to cash, waited for things to feel certain again. 5 months later, August, S&P's back at all-time highs. And from that March bottom, it's basically tripled since. So the people who sold and waited for certainty, they got back in higher, locked in their losses in the process, and missed the whole recovery. Not part of it, all of it. And this isn't a one-time thing, by the way. It's the pattern. Every cycle, no exceptions that I've found. Here's why it keeps happening. Your brain is, honestly, just wired against doing the smart thing here. Kahneman and Tversky showed this through decades of research. Losing $1 hurts roughly twice as much as gaining $1 feels good. It's not a character flaw. Don't beat yourself up over it. It's evolutionary. The humans who survived were the ones who really avoided loss. That same wiring's still active right now, watching red numbers on your screen, whispering, Get out, get out. There's this company, Dalbar, that's tracked the gap between what the market actually returns and what the average investor walks away with. 30 years of data. Over the 3 decades ending in 2015, S&P returned 10.35% a year. Average investor, 3.66%. That's a gap of 6.69 points every single year, compounding for 30 years straight. That's the difference between a comfortable retirement and running out of money, basically. And it's almost entirely because people sell at exactly the moments we're talking about here. Here's the mechanism, and this is the brutal part. JP Morgan's data. $10,000 invested continuously for 20 years grows to $64,844. Miss just the 10 best trading days out of roughly 5,000 trading days in that span, and you're down to $29,708. Miss 30 of those days and you're barely keeping up with inflation. And here's the part that should genuinely worry you. 76% of the market's best days happen during bear markets or in the first 2 months of a new bull run. Meaning, the days that build most of your wealth happen exactly when you're most scared and most likely to be sitting out. If you're not in the market, then you don't get them, and you can't go back later and grab them. They're gone. All right, now the part most finance videos conveniently skip, because it actually requires telling you something useful instead of just scaring you. Option 1. Sell. Wait till it feels safer, get back in then. Sounds responsible, right? It's not, though. Feeling safer almost always means the recovery's already happened and you're buying back in at a higher price. That's literally why Dalbar keeps publishing that 6.69-point gap year after year. Option 2. Do nothing. Just hold what you've got. Don't add, don't sell. Honestly, this is better than option 1. You don't lock in losses, you don't miss the recovery, but you also don't get the compounding benefit of buying in at a discount. So holding's kind of a floor, not a ceiling, if that makes sense. Option 3, and this is the one I'd actually push for, keep investing. At minimum, stick to your regular schedule. Emergency fund stays untouched, obviously, and don't put in money you'll need within the next year. But whatever you were already planning to invest, it's now buying in at a discount that wasn't there a few months back. And here's where the math gets kind of beautiful, honestly. Market drops 30%, your same monthly contribution now buys 43% more shares than before. Drops 40%, that's 67% more shares per dollar. You're not losing ground in those months. You're quietly accumulating ownership in great companies at a discount. That second guy, the one putting in $500 a month starting in 2009, he didn't get rich because he was some genius. He got rich because he kept going while everyone else stopped. Let's look at actual numbers for a second. Amazon, split adjusted, bottomed around $1.75 back in 2009. Wild to even say that out loud now. Someone putting in $500 a month from March 2009 through end of 2019 would have contributed $60,000 total. That position today's worth well into the millions. Not a genius story, like I said. Just someone who didn't bail when everything around them was screaming to. Microsoft was sitting around $15 in 2009, roughly. S&P 500 itself went from 676 and multiplied many times over within about 15 years. None of this was some lottery ticket. These were the biggest, most dominant companies on earth, just trading at panic discounts, bought by people willing to act while the headlines said run. RBC Wealth Management looked at 20 major military conflicts since 1950. Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War, Iraq, that whole list. Average S&P decline across all of them, 6%. Market bottomed in about 13 trading days on average, fully recovered in around 28. Less than 6 weeks, start to finish. Meanwhile, you're sitting there watching the news, waiting for certainty, and the recovery's often already wrapped up by the time you've decided it's safe. Average bull market over the last 100 years ran 4.9 years, returned 177%. Average bear market, 1.5 years, 35% down. Rolling 10-year periods were positive 94.1% of the time. Rolling 20-year periods, 100%. Every single one on record, including the ones with world wars, depressions, oil shocks, financial crises baked right in. 0 exceptions, not one. That dreaded lost decade, 2000 to 2010, where the S&P basically went sideways the whole time, that's happened twice in a century. And even then, if you'd kept investing through both crashes and held for 20 years, you'd have ended up with a 350% return. Slower than you wanted, sure, but you still quadrupled your money. This is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable, honestly. Because if the data's this clear, the question isn't really, is this an opportunity? The real question is whether you'll actually still be invested by the time it plays out. Guy A, the one who went to cash back in 2009, wasn't careless. That's the thing. He did it because being careful felt like exactly the right move while everything was collapsing around him. So it wasn't really his intentions that failed him. It was that his nervous system was making a financial decision that, honestly, his logic should have been making instead. The difference between the two guys wasn't intelligence, wasn't income. Definitely wasn't some secret information one of them had. It was just the ability to look at what the data actually says and act on it, even while every headline, every news segment, every conversation with friends is pointing the opposite direction. That gap between knowing and actually doing, that's where wealth gets built or quietly missed. Always has been, probably always will be. Most people right now are just reacting to headlines, watching the number on their app turn red, feeling sick about it. They'll make a fear-driven call and move on with their day. And 10 years from now, they'll look around, wondering how everyone else got so far ahead of them. You don't have to be that person, though. You just need to understand the math clearly enough to actually act on it, even when your gut's screaming the opposite. That's really the whole thing. The window's open right now. What you do with it, that part's on you. If this shifted how you're thinking about your money at all, drop a comment below. I read every single one, genuinely.